Thinking out loud here. Ain't made one of these in a while. My cousin Glenn inspired me to make another one. First thing I'm inspired to do is get rid of this. It's wisdom, that's all it is. Glenn wanted me to make one on the book of Leviticus, which I'm going through right now actually. I guess one of the main things I would say is that in order to understand Leviticus, or really any of the law of the Old Testament, you have to read the book of Hebrews. The book of Hebrews tells us how to interpret what was going on back then and how Jesus affected that and how he changed some of the things. Of course, there's a lot to get into and a lot that I still don't understand, but one of the most important things has to do with the high priest, and that the high priest would have to go in there all the time to the most holy place, very center of the tabernacle, and he would have to make atonements and do these things like that in order to cleanse the sins of the people and things of that nature. The problem is that eventually that priest would die, and then they'd have to get a new one, and then he'd have to go in there, and then eventually he would die, etc., etc. So Jesus being our ultimate high priest, Jesus being our high priest, our ultimate high priest, he went into the heavenly holy of holies, and he made that once and for all sacrifice. So it's done. It's over. There doesn't have to be another high priest now. And that's kind of what it means when it talks about Jesus being the order of Melchizedek. It means that's the highest level of all the high priests. I mean, there's a whole study about Melchizedek, and I don't know if I even really understand it, but I understand that that means he's the highest of the high. There's no other high priest higher than him, and so once he's done that sacrifice, it's over. So it's now over. In other words, it is finished. And as you probably well know, all those sacrifices that were made by the high priest were just foreshadowings of Jesus and what he was going to do. The ceremonial law, as it were. Paul oftentimes calls them shadows. And if you think of a shadow, I mean, it's like the person that has it, but it's only a very dim, oblong facet of it. It only gives you a tiny glimpse of the real thing. And so when we look at all those things in Leviticus, that's all we're getting. We're getting a